Hi, welcome to another reading vlog. Today I am doing something that I think will be fun, but we'll see how this will go. So basically, one of my reading goals just in general is always to read more sequels. I always feel like I'm endlessly catching up to the series that I'm reading. I don't know what's up with that, but it's a thing. So I thought something that would be fun is to do 24 hours of sequels challenge. So this will basically mean I'll be doing a 24-hour readathon, the timer method, because I love sleep. I cannot stay awake for 24 hours. I simply cannot. So I thought it would be fun to just try and read as many sequels as I can in 24 hours. I just checked my reading journal from last year, and because last year I also did a video like this, the only thing is that I did not have any theming. I just tried to read as many books as I could in 24 hours, and I just did a random selection. I just checked my journal spread that I did for that, and I completed this challenge over 6 days, and I read 5 books in those 6 days. And I am gonna say I have more books on my TBR for this round, but to be fair, I am not necessarily needing to get to all of these. They're definitely a bit of an ambitious goal, but these are just the sequels that are at the very top of my TBR that I just really desperately want to get to. And that's also a reason why I wanted to make this video, is because I feel like I've been reading so much for videos lately, and I've been loving every concept I've been doing, so it's not necessarily an issue, but therefore a lot of the sequels I want to read have been getting to the wayside as if not been fitting into videos. So here is a concept just for sequels. I'm gonna start off the TBR by showing you my 2 library books. These are like least and highest priority, as these aren't necessarily the sequels I'm most excited about, but you know, I would like to get them read before they need to get returned. Starting off with Tunnel of Bones by Evie Schwab. I just read book 1 in this series, so I am excited to get to this still. This is also a middle grade, so this will move by a little bit quicker. I also think this is the shortest on today's list. Then I also have A Work of One's Own by Evie Dunmore, which is book 2 in the League of Extraordinary Women series, and this is a companion series of historical romances. And I read book 1 and 3 last month, so I'm excited to get to book 2 as well. And then the 2 sequels on my physical TBR that I'm actually most hyped to read are first off The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, which is the final book in Mistborn Era 1, and I absolutely love The Final Empire and The Well of Ascension, which are book 1 and 2 in the series. And this is a chunker, so I don't know how realistic this will be to read in a 24-hour readathon, but you know, it will fill up a lot of hours at least if I do decide to go with this one. And then we also have The Ruby Circle by Richelle Mead, which is the final book in the Bloodline series. So just a coincidence that the 2 that are most hyped are also series finales. But this, I've been reading this series very on and off for the past 2 years, and the ratings have been a bit all over the place, but I'm really excited to finally wrap it up, see how this series is going to end. And then I also have 2 other sequels that I'm really hyped for. One is The Long Way Home by Jessa Hastings. This is so flappy, and also much more of a chunker than I remembered it being. So again, I don't know if this is that much of a realistic goal, but it's the 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks universe. We're back to BG and Magnolia, which I am a little bit hesitant about because I definitely preferred Daisy and Christian, but I am still really excited to give this a read. And then I also have King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, and if you've been on my channel, you know that this book has been on a lot of TBRs. This is the 3rd book in the Red Queen series, and I'm determined to finish this series this year, but I haven't been able to fit this book in at any point so far. So, you know, it'd be great if I actually am able to make my way through this doing this 24 hours, because you know, if I don't even start this now, I don't even know if this is ever gonna happen. I really wanted to, but I have several more sequels on my TBR, so I don't necessarily know if I'm gonna stick to just these 6 books, you know. It's a very ambitious goal, I know, especially with The Hero of Ages in there, but you know, these 6 books I'm not necessarily like having to stick to these if I want to read another sequel somewhere throughout this 24 hours. I am definitely allowed to. My only goal is to read as much as I can and hopefully beat my score last time of 6 books in 5 days. We'll see. I don't really have anything on for the week, so hopefully this will conclude very quickly. But I'm going to start this vlog off by reading The Ruby Circle by Richelle Mead. I'm so hyped for this one. It also isn't the longest. There's 348 pages, and I read the other books in the series relatively quickly, so I am hoping this will be a good start to the readathon, I guess, to the challenge. And yeah, I also think like completing the series will be a good way to like kick my ass into gear. So we started off with The Ruby Circle. So I just hit the 1 hour mark, so things are going good already. I'm reading The Ruby Circle. I'm 120 pages into this so far, and I already forgot how many pages is that in total. 348, so about 350. So, you know, if I keep going this way, I'll finish this in the next 2 hours. And it's only 9:15, and I wanted to read till 11, so that's another 2 hours. And you know, the beginning is always the slowest part of a book, which means I'll be able to finish this tonight, maybe, potentially. Anyway, let me talk to you about The Ruby Circle for just a tad bit. This is like I said, this is the final book in the Bloodline series, which is a spin-off series of the Vampire Academy series. I am enjoying it so far. I at first, with the way this started, I was a bit nervous to see how this was gonna pull all of its different threads together, and currently I'm still a little bit nervous about that because there's one big threat that we're just not talking about at all, and I'm just kind of nervous how that's gonna be weaved into the story, especially because it is a smaller book. But I have hopes that it's gonna be able to thread all the things together. And honestly, the one that I was most worried about has already been put into the function in this book, so at least there's that. It is 11:30. I am just past the 3 hour mark on this challenge, and I finished The Ruby Circle by Richelle Mead. I'm exhausted. Anyway, I ended up giving it a 4-star, I think. I literally just finished it, but I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star because I do feel like I wanted just a tad bit more from this than we ended up getting. But I overall did really enjoy this book. I think it managed to pull in all these different threads and make them fit into the puzzle, and it worked really well. In my opinion, I did mention earlier that I was a bit nervous to see how everything was going to be included in it, but it made sense. It was done well. I really also just love how, even though we still focus mostly on Sydney and Adrian, we also pull in a lot of different characters that we've gone to love throughout both of the series at this point, and I love the way their stories concluded as well. There's just some elements in this that I really enjoyed it as the series finale. I do think it did a job properly, and I thought this was an engaging story. I just feel like we go from like the end scene into an epilogue, but I feel like that could have been like 2 more chapters in between that, if that makes sense, because the epilogue is a year later and kind of focuses more on like, look at the happy lives our characters are leading, and I just feel like 1 or 2 chapters in between that would have just, I don't know, or even if in that epilogue we focus also a bit more on the wider world, I feel like that would have left me just a tad bit more satisfactory with the conclusion, because now I feel like so many things are still so open-ended, and especially like the big things are still open-ended, and I want to know if changes were made or not. And yeah, I'm, like I said, exhausted, so I am going to sleep, and then tomorrow I'll start something else, but I don't know what yet. Okay, so it is 8 p.m. the next day. I'm sorry for the horrible update yet again, but I'm almost at 6 hours of reading and I'm exhausted right now. Yes, this early on in the day, but I had like a really short night's sleep, and today's been a bit more busy than expected. We had a couple of not necessarily unexpected guests, but also like not necessarily expected guests. But I have done a chunk of reading, as you can tell from the timer. But I started The Long Way Home by Jessa Hastings, which I don't know why I decided that this was the book I needed to read, because it is it's massive. It really is. It should not be this long, I think, already. But it also is probably the one on the TBR that was like the least of my priorities. But I've been reading a lot of fantasy lately, and I wanted something contemporary, so this is what I ended up with. I am on page 222 right now, so it is a slower moving than the movie Circle, but I'm mainly just getting into this book. I was excited about it. Like I said earlier in the intro, the first Magnolia Park books wasn't necessarily my favorite. I gave it 3 stars, so I didn't hate it, but I read Daisy Hates last month. It's not a concept I understand, but I think I read it last month, and I really enjoyed that, and I flew through that book, and it made me really hyped to continue on with the series, even knowing we were going back to Magnolia and BJ. But like, I forgot how exhausting it can be to read from their perspectives. Like, they're so self-centered and toxic and just not good people, and also their inner monologue can be very repetitive. So that's what I'm saying. I can already tell you, even though I'm not even halfway through, that this should not be as big as it is, because I've already read like 20 different lines a billion times, so it's not necessary. But oh well. I am loving the experience of reading such like a big floppy book though, so at least there's that. And just over 9 hours into this challenge, and I finished my second book. Aren't you so happy for me? I am very happy, especially because again, this one was a chunker. The Long Way Home ended up being a 3-star for me, which honestly is right on track with the other Magnolia Parks book. So therefore, I cannot complain. But there were, I like this more than the first one though, but still feels like a 3-star is like the right way to go. One thing I really appreciate about this book is that it really did a great job at not necessarily redeeming BJ, because I do still think he can be a little bit of a piece of shit sometimes, but I feel like it does a good job at showing that he's trying to be a better person, and seeing him grow throughout this book as well. It's never, and also he takes accountability for his actions, which is something he never did in book 1. So all of that is very appreciated. But then in stark contrast to that, Magnolia, exact same bitch. No development at all through this book. I would even argue that she gets worse, because I feel like in book 1, if BJ like genuinely would call her out for hurting him, she would take that to heart, and in this book she took that as an insult while it was just the truth. But for the rest, I enjoyed their dynamic in this book as well. I feel like it was less like you claim to love each other but you actually hate each other. It was very clear there's a lot of hurt and a lot of like trauma between them, because that's also a thing this book does, is delve more into their past and shows why they are so bonded to each other as they are, why they cannot let go of each other, what they went through together, and therefore it kind of just feels like there's just a lot of hurt there. And it's also partially because BJ is like trying to be a better person, isn't therapy, it's working through this stuff. It feels like we're also like getting to a bit of a healthier place with their relationship. I'm not saying they'll ever be healthy, because there's no way they are, but like we are getting to a place where it generally feels like we're trying to fix that hurt between them, which I also really liked, especially because towards the end, like BJ recognizes that they need a moment to breathe. Like they've always moved way too fast, and that's their problem. And I really like that aspect of it. I do still think that this book is very repetitive and very cyclical. And I'm like, if you just would talk to each other for once instead of running away at the slightest bit of conflict, this would be so much better. Of like over exploding on everything, it would just like communicate, talk through things. Like I said, I appreciate that BJ is in therapy, where Magnolia should be as well. I don't know why no one ever suggested that in this book. And I have decided on my next read though, because this was a bit exhausting at points. I just want like a quick snappy read, so I decided to go for Tunnel of Bones by Schwab. This is a middle grade like paranormal book. It's a really fun series. I read book 1 right before filming this video, and I enjoyed it. It was a 3-star, nothing like too special, too memorable, but a very fun time that I think I would have loved if I was like in the actual age demographic of it, but I am very curious to continue on with this. It's set in Paris. It's beautiful. Straight edge will tell you, and yeah, this will probably take me like, I don't know, not a lot of time. Okay, so I read this book even quicker than I predicted because I'm at 10:42 right now, which is not even. I expected to at least hit 11 hours, so that took me to tweet this one. Took me under 2 hours. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. Also, did some calculations, and with finishing this book, I have pushed over the 1,000-page mark. So yay! We're doing great. We're not even halfway through the challenge and already have read over 1,000 pages. That's fun. Let's talk about this book though. This one was also fun. Another 3-star, which is right on par with book 1, which is what I expected. These are just really fun paranormal middle grade reads, and I do think that if I was like the age demographic for this, I would eat this shit up. Although, you know, when I was actually in the age demographic for this, I was a big old scaredy cat, so I don't think I would have ever thought about picking this up. Not that these are that scary, but still, I wouldn't even like come near the Goosebumps books when I was a kid. So I definitely don't think I would have picked this up. I honestly, in some ways, like this more than book 1, and then in other ways, like it less. I feel like the first book was a bit more eerie and atmospheric than this one. I felt really transported into the setting. Like, that book, it takes place in Edinburgh, and this one in Paris, and I feel like the setting in the first book just kind of came out a bit more, and definitely felt a bit unsettled too in certain moments. It wasn't like I said, it wasn't like scary, but it, you know, Schwab was just so great at building the atmosphere, and I kind of had a little bit of less of that, but I did like the plot better in this one. I feel like in the first book it takes a while for like the story to get going, and this one kind of jumps into things, very fast paced, action packed, really fun, and it has a really cool kind of, not really a mystery to solve, but kind of. I also like that we got to spend more time with these characters. Like, of course, I mean, characters Cass and Jacob are really fun, and I like the dynamic. And I especially love getting to learn more about Jacob in this book. So we also spent more time with Cass's parents, as well as Lana, who we met in book 1. And I just really loved seeing them, like, having them play a little bit of a bigger part in this book. So yeah, it's a really fun read, but ultimately I don't think the series is gonna be like too memorable for me. I'm also proud of myself for finishing this one, and yeah, I finished 2 books today, which is quite an accomplishment, especially because I read like over 200 pages of this book. So it's not like, you know, it was a short amount that I read this day. I do think that my next read is gonna be King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, which is another 500 plus books, 522. So it's a bit of a chunker, but I am quite excited to read this. This is like definitely what I'm in the mood for right now. Hi, I am 60 hours into the challenge, so it's been a while since I last saw you. But I did finish King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. I read the first 100 pages of this a couple of days ago actually, and it went by so slowly, and I kind of took a break from reading for a couple of days, hence why you didn't see me. And then my goal for today was to try and finish this, and it was kind of a bit of a stretch goal because I didn't think I'd be able to do it considering how long this first 100 pages took me. And this is 522 pages, so I thought it would take me much longer, but it didn't. I spent about 5 hours reading this book, just kind of like wound it up a little bit, and yeah, it's a 2-star. I hate it too. I don't know, but I just was expecting a little bit more from this book. I just feel like almost nothing happened in here. It was just really boring. I still can't stand Mare, and I thought she was gonna go through some character growth. No, instead we got a lot of characters POV, was probably even more insufferable than she is. So life's great. I really struggled through this book. I do think that world-wise it does some interesting things. Like it is a bit politics based, not very politics based, but it is more politics based than the other books. I do think some interesting stuff are happening over there. We are expanding the world a bit, getting a look into the history of the world, of the other countries, and that is incredibly interesting to me, and I'm very excited to see how Victoria Aveyard will explore that more in the final novel. But this was just a massive flop. I feel like it's too long. Mainly I feel like this plot that was in this book, as little as it was, could have been executed in less pages by far. Like you can tell that I wasn't a big fan of this book because I barely have any sticky tabs in here, and most of them are green, which is mostly like world history stuff. And yeah, that's all this video is for. Then next sequel I'm gonna read is A Work of My Own by Evie Dunmore. Now I wasn't the biggest fan of the other two books in the series that I read, but I did read both of them in one day, like one day each. I didn't read two books in one day. And considering they are kind of chunky, like this is almost 500 pages, it's 478, so it is on the chunkier side. Like just being able to read a book like this in one day just kind of feels like a bit of accomplishment. So I'm hoping that now I'm actually like putting my mind to it to read it, not as quickly as possible, because I do still want to save for a bit to like, you know, continuously read, which I didn't necessarily do with the other two books. I feel like this is gonna fly by, hopefully. Hi, it is almost 1 a.m. and I have reached the 21 hour mark. I also finished A Book of One's Own by Evie Dunmore, which by the time, you should know I love this. I could not put this on because I was originally gonna update you once I reached the 20-hour mark, because I have like a benchmark, you know. But I was so engrossed in this book that I kind of forgot about that. This is a 5-star easily, which is such a surprise. Like the best way possible. But like I said before, I originally read book 1 and 3. I read last month in the series because it's a companion series of historical romances. You don't need to read them in order. And that was a 2 and a 3-star. I did enjoy them fine enough, but like they were quite boring. This though is one of my new favorite reads. I genuinely love it so much. Just the match between the two main characters is everything. Like they basically grew up together, and he actually has been in love with her the entire time, which is such a refreshing change of pace. I feel like often, especially in historical romance, but even like in contemporaries, when they've been friends since they were kids, or like have known each other since they were kids, oftentimes it's the girl that's been in love all this time and the guy just falling in love throughout the novel, and this was the other way around. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that. I thought it created for some really cute moments, some really piney moments that I loved. Their connection was just also just so great, and you could see that even though for him the childish love was there, like he's loved her since the beginning, as they like actually like not go on a courtship throughout this book, but you know, as a relationship develops throughout this book, he like falls in love with her now as well again, and it's just so sweet, and I teared up at several points. I think either that conflict was actually really well executed, which typically I don't like in books. I like in romance books. And then I also thought the suffragette subplot was included really well in this book, which honestly, as much as I think that's very interesting, I do think that's what makes book 1 and 2 very boring, is the suffragette storyline. But because we feel Lucy was the leader of our suffragette group, she's doing a lot, and seeing her do all that and be kind of a bit more involved just makes it integrated into the book much better. And I love this so much. Okay, so 24 hours have gone by, and this is everything that I read in that time period. Quite a lot. But I actually didn't finish this book kind of quite. I got to page 276, so I still have 350, so I have like 70 pages more to go. If I counted that correctly, and my math isn't great, so who the fuck knows. This was a reread, and I decided to pick it up because Chain of Slot came out recently, which is the 4th book in the series. They're all like contemporary billionaire romances companion books, so you don't necessarily have to read them in order, but I have read them as each one has come out, and I'm reading this one soon for a video. But King of Pride is my favorite in the series, and I thought it would be fun to reread that before getting to King of Slot. So because I only had 3 hours left, I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish another book, so I thought I would just indulge myself in a little reread, and I have been loving it so far. It just really fun to reread this. I also annotated this upon my first read, and I've been adding in annotations, and it's just also really fun to read my initial annotations as I'm going through this and my little thoughts. Yeah, I'm still loving it. Actually planning on just reading these last 70 pages, timing how long it will take me, so you know that as well. But first I thought I'd just quickly go over what I did actually read within those 24 hours. Actually also went back to my digital reading journal from last year to check out my little like page I made for the 25 readathon, which I'll pop up on screen right now. And I read 5 books in 6 days, like I mentioned in the intro. And this time around I also read 5 books in 6 days. This is a little graph for that. I kind of wanted to read more and faster, and I didn't really do that, except my page count is much higher, so at least there's that. But I still read 5 books, and technically I read 5, I almost read 6 books, even because this is like a very small amount that I did not read. So I do think I improved, even if I did it not as fast. The only difference is that last time I don't think I took any breaks, so like days in which I didn't read anything, and I definitely did that now, so that's a bit sad. I would say a very successful turnaround this year. So yeah, now I'm just gonna go finish up King of Pride and make this a satisfactory vlog, because I don't think it would be fun for me to end this now. Okay, so it took me just under 50 minutes to read the last 70 pages or so of this book, so yay! This again was a 5-star. Upon my first read, it was one of my favorite books of last year. I just love it so much, and this reread was just as lovely. I really love Kai and Isabella. I think they are such great characters, but also make such a great match, and I love the way the relationship develops throughout the book. I really love the cast of side characters, and I like the story of this one, and I just chef's kiss. Big fan. I'm not gonna talk about it too much because it is a reread, and yeah, that can be added to the stack. So technically this is what I read in 25 hours, because you can round that up to another hour. So yay me. I'm actually very impressed that I got to this many books. Like, I was starting to think that my TBR was very ambitious when I got to the long way home. I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm never gonna finish my TBR, and I mean I didn't even touch the Hero of Ages, but this was also the longest book on there. But I did still read way more than I expected to, so I'm very glad with myself. Made a lot of progress in series, except for this one. I finished the series, which is also always lovely. And yeah, I had way more fun doing this than last time. I feel like last time, by the time I got about like halfway through, I was so exhausted of it, and I was like, oh my god, how much longer is it's gonna take me. But this time around I actually had a lot of fun with it, and I don't know if that's because I had like not a goal in mind, but like a theme to what I was reading and trying to get to as many sequels as possible. So maybe that's why I felt a bit more motivated, or maybe it's because I took some days off from reading. That also kept things fresh. I don't know, but I had a blast, and I'm kind of sad it's over. So yeah, that's everything for today. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, so I know to discuss them with you. And if you've ever done a 24 readathon, what that was like, because I've had 2 very different experiences now. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played it cool.